I want to thank you for inviting me to your conference. Oh, sorry. Hello, I'm Margaret Donald. I've been contributing to Korean Wikidata, which has given me enormous pleasure, and I hope to share some of that with you. I'm going to share my screen now and hopefully get to my slides. And so this is an image of Chong Yak-yong, who was played in Zungukwan Scandal as a close advisor to King Jeongjo. And to try and find out who these people were, I had a great difficulty because of the name. How is it spelt? And that was a huge motivation because all of your articles were essentially extremely difficult to find and not available to me as a non-Korean speaker. So I embarked upon this exercise. Now, there are another motivation. I'm a statistician, and as a statistician, I know that databases aren't really good for querying if you don't have information in them. And there's a lot of information missing on articles that are on Q items that are identified as somehow being attached to Korea, either because something happened in Korea or because a person comes from Korea or because it's a place or a heritage object or many, many things. So that was the motivation. And the other, there's a third motivation, and that's that I'm a Wikimedian, and I believe I should be able to find an article to tell me the answers when I have a question. So I had a question about this man, and it took me an incredible age to find an answer, partly because I didn't know how to do it very well then, but I do know now. So we go down, and I work with queries. And so my very first query was a Q items without an English label, and they were ordered by SiteLink for importance. And they were just any old Q item. And the second one was Korean citizens, and they could have been citizens of Shilla, Baekje, Goguryeo, South Korea, North Korea, and Korea. I didn't include Empire of Japan. I thought it was too wide. And you can see I've targeted various things by various queries, but these are the ways in which I've been working. So paging down, this is the very first query. It's queries just anything that is associated with Korea. And it works by hitting the run button. And you can see that there are things that are optional, and I've given you the query so that you can modify it and add things that you want to add. So this is sort of an example of a query, and you can modify it and change it should you so desire. So we'll hit the run button, and we see something like this. And you can see that there's roughly 33,000, or at the time I first queried this, 33,000 items that didn't have English labels. Many of them did have instance of, about 2/3 of them had instance of. So there's still about 12,000 that don't have instance of, making them essentially unfindable. How do we use it? What I did, I've done this again. You can see there's a download button there. I downloaded these and I added them and I put them into an open refined spreadsheet, part of which you can see here. Now, I've subset this because eventually I worked out that the ending Seong implied that it was a fortress or a fortress town. And so I looked for things ending in Seong. And I found, well, that's what it looked like, first of all. I found the Seongs and I faceted on them, and I built a schema to upload just these items as instance of. So I thought I'll be game. I'll say they're all fortresses, and I'll say they're instances of fortresses, and I've just described them as fortress here. I probably should have written Korean fortress, but I didn't want to because it might have been a case that you had an article about some entirely foreign fortress that was not a Korean fortress at all. Now, the schema allowed me to upload this information to the 330 matching rows. To do that, I hit the Wikidata button here and choose Upload to Wikibase or generate some quick statements. And so that was how I labeled 330 items. I then worked on them to give us this map, and another Wikidata enthusiast put in the last about 200, I think. And you can see there that we have a map which shows a great deal about Korea. It probably is showing the early borders between Shilla, Baekje, and Goguryeo. It's certainly showing fortresses that were used in the Japanese Imjin invasions, the 1592, 1598. And there are many missing because, in fact, it only includes 365. Now, that corresponds to things I could find. It may be you have more articles. It may be that there are many, many articles still to be written. But certainly that, I'm sure that does not include all the fortresses. But it does give a layout of a lot of the history of Japan, of Korea, I believe. Moving on, I then, oh dear me, I've managed to capture that poorly. I then did a query on people, and I ordered them by year of birth and year of death. And if you click on the Q item, you get to something that looks like this. Two halves are different here. The top half is the Q item before I'd added anything to it. You can see it has no English label, no description. And I've included Chinese there because all of these people, they're recorded in Korean Wiki under their Korean names, but originally they were written in Chinese characters. So every one of them, well, certainly all of the early historical ones, the chosen ones, all have Chinese labels. So I was adding Chinese labels as well. And you can see the effect of part of the effect of what I've done. I've now got in the bottom half a description, and I've put in year of birth and year of death. So I think I've added that wasn't there before. And I've added a Chinese label as well. And you can see also that we've got a tick on the Encyclopedia of Korean Culture, which means I've added that as well. So what did I add? What does it look like? This is the history, and it shows that I've added, if we go from the bottom, an English label, a Chinese label, an English description. I've created the claim of date of death. I've created sex. I've added Encyclopedia of Korean Culture ID. I've added occupation, civil servant, and then I've added references to all of the claims, and on occasion to claims that are already there but not referenced. So moving along, I wanted to show you this because I think this is a really important thing you could add to Wikidata. I've added about 2/3 of, I've added a substantial number of these. As you can see, I've actually added 3,000, and this is up to somewhere in the 4,000s now, but we're still a long way from getting to the, to it all being up. Now, it won't all get up because things don't match perfectly, but you can use this mix and match to get there. So if you hit the preliminarily matched, you will see possible matches. Now, if you wanted, I could show you how to use it, but I can't show you how to use it with Hangul because I just simply cannot read these things to be able to use this mix and match well. But you people should be able to, I hope. I can't, so I actually have to tackle it via my queries. Page down. There we go. So here's a link to some resources. I've linked to my queries. Now, you'll probably have to modify those. You may not wish to add English labels, whereas I did. But you can put in what you want because these are examples. And I've done the Q items that relate to Korean things and Q items that relate to Korean people. And I've added these resources. And of course, this one is the Encyclopedia of Korean Culture, which is a fabulous resource. And just making it available via Wikidata to non-Korean speakers would be just wonderful, because it's such a good site. It automatically translates into English or to various really common European languages. It may do many more than I think, but you would actually reach an enormous number of Wikipedians if this is put in, and they would have a fabulous resource to read about things that are Korean. The second one is really good for details about when things were turned into a heritage. Now, that's all been extremely well done already by Koreans, I imagine. What's been less well done is adding photographs. So that I've contributed to Ko-Wiki by adding photographs, mainly from this heritage site, but sometimes from this site. And here are some other links that you may find useful. I really do wish to thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and it's been a real pleasure doing this and adding Wikidata to Korean items and learning about a tiny little bit about Korea. I'll stop here, so I'll stop my sharing and I'll stop my end because I've already thanked you, but I will thank you again. Bye.